as was discussed in section 3 on relationships in the previous modules, it's incredibly important to get to know your students. So that's a huge piece of the whole behavior component. And really taking the time to work with the teacher to get to know your students better. In an ideal world, you'll have that prep work and time work before going out onto the job. We know that's not always ideal, but if possible, do try to collaborate with the teacher ahead of time just to be able to have a chance to look over their IEP, if the student has a behavior plan or any other things written into their IEP that might be helpful for you to know and get to know the student better as far as how they handle frustration or if there's any plans that you need to follow. And the biggest piece is just really getting to know the student themselves. You'll want to really understand how that will all transfer from school to the work site. So spend some time talking to the teacher about that. And the teacher can really share ideas about each individual student, such as what to look for in body language, maybe what some triggers may be for that individual student. Calming strategies that work for specific students sometimes are really quite unique. I had a student once that could really escalate and become frustrated pretty quickly, kind of took a person by surprise. But they were very passionate about cooking and recipes, and they were in the process as a hobby of creating their own cookbook. So when I could kind of see some frustration starting to escalate or occur, I would often start asking, or I'd ask him about his favorite brownie recipe, and just quickly changing the subject or changing the direction of things bought you some time to kind of navigate the situation, kind of start to try to understand maybe what's frustrating on the job. But just asking a couple things and changing conversation really worked for the student. But it's important to know that about each student. So I would always try to find out a couple things about each student that I worked with. What were a couple key passions of theirs, hobbies? What did they do on the weekends and outside of school? And it's a great way to show that you're really, truly interested in them and care about them when you just something as simple as asking, how was your weekend? Or how was the race or the movie that you went to see? So it really helps build a rapport, and just having that connection with the student can be very helpful. But it's also just important to know, what are their fears? What are some dislikes? What environments do they prefer to work in? Do they like working outside, inside? Maybe they like a quieter environment, or they like the hustle and bustle of people around. Everybody has a different learning style. So a student might need to be able to see a visual or pictures of steps of a job versus hearing auditory steps to do. Some students may become overwhelmed quickly and just need one little step at a time and build upon that. So it's important to put in that time and work before going to the job site and getting to know. So, and the other important piece too is don't forget the rest of the staff back at school. Spend time talking to teachers or the other staff that maybe have a positive rapport with the student and can help give some feedback or some tips and tricks that maybe worked. So just remember, it's all about the connections, and that makes such a difference. Like the quote says, it's the little conversations that build the relationships and make an impact on each student.